100% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name. He doesn't need his name up in lights, he just wants to be heard, whether it's the beat of the mic.
Alright, good afternoon everyone and welcome to Week 4 predictions. It's hard to believe that we have already completed 3 weeks in this league and now we are looking at Week 4. Seems just like yesterday. I remember texting and messaging all of you going, hey, are you going to be in this league again this year? I'm thinking about changing some things up. What are your thoughts? We had a couple of people bow out. We had to look for some new blood to replace them, and look where we are now. We are entering Week 4. One heck of a competitive league we have going on. Everybody's having a blast. You are, even if you haven't won a game yet. We'll get to that. Or you're 1-2. You're still having fun. We're only 3 weeks in. There's so much of the season left to go. And speaking of how everybody is doing, and I know we always touch that a little bit on our recap video, but we have to give credit where credit is due, and that again goes to Ian. Ian, 3-0, undefeated, our only undefeated team here in our league, who is just dominating in every aspect. We said it last week. He scores a lot of points. When you play him, you don't score a lot of points. And he gets the win. And what's crazy is this week, I don't think that stops. We'll explain that in a little bit, but I think Ian keeps rolling. But if we look at our other teams that are still in the top 6, just because our top 6 make the playoffs, so those are the ones, of course, that we do focus on. We have Sean and myself, along with Josh, along with Jake, all sitting at 2-1. Safe. No, there is no such thing as safe. When we're only 3 weeks in. Even Ian, heck, he could go on a 5-game losing streak and still be on the outside looking in. So way too early to think that you're in a good spot. You need to keep trying. You need to keep putting up the best lineup. You need to keep looking at those free agents, all that good stuff to make sure that you are getting enough wins to put yourself in the playoffs. As our number 6 team right now, Dez, is sitting at 1-2, but that's based on how many points he scored. The man scored a lot of points, and I think he's talked about that on how many points he has scored compared to everybody else. As you can see on the screen here, the second most from what we can see compared to Ian, but yet he's 1-2 because he's whoever he's facing also scores a lot of points against him. And if we talk about teams that are 3-0 and 2-1, we typically forget, we overlook, we just don't want to talk about the teams that are 1-2. Adam, Will, Clint, John, Jeremy, Jay, all sitting at 1-2. The good news is nobody is still waiting for their first win. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up to see last year, but I'm pretty sure because I just remember how Jeremy and Sean finished overall record. I would imagine that after 3 weeks we had a team or 2 or multiple teams, 3 or so that didn't have any wins. Looking at going into Week 4. So the fact that we have everybody with at least a win after 3 weeks is in a good spot. And look at this. I mean, the same record puts you all the way from 6th and possibly in the playoffs to all the way down to dead last, which also just says that the amount of points that you score every week matters. Who you put in your lineup matters. Who gives you the best chances. It may not be this week. You may still win or lose this week, but that extra 10, 15 points, if you look at, could make a huge difference. Just look at if it's between John and Jeremy, who right now are really close with points for and things like that. It could come down to a difference in a player that they put in on a Sunday morning who ended up scoring them more points if it comes down to the playoffs. But I will say I did predict them both to not be in the playoffs, so maybe it doesn't even matter, John and Jeremy. Anyways, so that is our standings. let's go ahead and jump into then our breakdown for the week for week 4, and we always leave my game to the last, so we will start with Jake versus Will. Now I will say Jake, I mean, maybe he's just confident, maybe he just knows that he's playing Will and that's an easy win, to the point where he's like, listen, Will, I don't even need Montgomery. He's going to run for 121 yards. He's going to score 3 touchdowns. I don't want to blow you out. I want to make this game close, so I'm going to leave him on my bench. I don't need those points, because what's crazy is he's still predicted to win, even with that. Or he, was in the mindset of, he's coming back from an injury. I probably should play it safe. And they're playing on the road in Green Bay. Whatever the thinking, the thought process, it doesn't matter, because it can be undone now. So all those points are sitting on Jake's bench and doesn't add into his only weekly total, but of course yearly total. But if we look at the breakdown for quarterback, I'm actually giving the edge to neither of them. I'm saying it's a toss-up. Goff had a pretty good game. Had 12.4 points, had that one interception that we all saw as we watched the game. Mayfield, I don't think is gonna be much beyond that. Even if he scores to his prediction and scores, let's say, 14 points, it's still pretty close. So I'd say that's even between the two. I do give the wide receiver edge, though, to Will. Just Connor, Henry, between the two, and he has Mostert, and who had one hell of a game last week. Trust me, I know, because I don't want to say single-handedly beat me, but let's just say if he had only scored a normal, probably what he was predicted, I think I actually would have had the edge last week. So I give the running back edge to Will, but I give the wide receiver, though, a portion to Jake. Evans, Smith, Gabe Davis, they are really, really close, but I do feel that they are going to outscore what Will has out there. And then for tight end, I do give that to Jake as well, just because he does have Kittle, and I do think Kittle outscores Ertz this week. So overall, the victory goes to Jake, who shows he doesn't need Montgomery. He doesn't need those extra points. He will still get the victory even without that. That would put Jake at 3-1. And Will on the outside looking in at 1-3, and a tough way to start the season. So the next here between Josh and Adam, and I know we've seen Josh has posted some things on our messenger. He's a little frustrated with his team, even though he's sitting at 2-1. But trust me, hey, I know I've got that wide receiver from Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's just not performing as of right now, and neither is Lawrence. Maybe that will change. That is the 9:30 a.m. game. That is the game that's no other games on at that time frame. We'll watch it. And there's also, if you have kids and you're trying to get them into football, I only say that because that's me, 100%. I plan on turning on that, I believe it's on ESPN, I don't remember, but they have like that Toy Story version of football, and I plan on having Kendall watch that part just to see if that helps get her into football a little bit more, because, tickets are expensive, and I'm not quite to the point yet, and I get she's 8, but, spending, anywhere between $100 and $300 a ticket for someone who's not quite into the game is just a little too much for me. So I'm trying. So maybe that game, actually watching that tomorrow, will actually be fun enough. She'll get a little bit into it, but we'll see. But I'm excited to watch the game just because, I love waking up, getting a couple of things done, and then bam, football is on at 9:30. It would be like, living on the West Coast, which I always think about that, how awesome that would be. Because, 3-hour time difference, earlier than we are, or later, or whatever, however it works, it would be when football pretty much starts for us, 3 hours, on the earlier side for them, so they get football right in the morning, and they don't have to wait till 1 o'clock like we do, and how awesome that would actually be. I think that would be a game changer, to the point where, I don't know, years from now, tomorrow, whenever I decide to retire, that is a possibility of what I've been thinking for, where I would love to end up someday, just because of that, and how Sundays would be awesome. And honestly, being in Vegas, imagine living in Vegas, time change, games are super early, and then heck, you're in Vegas for Sunday football. Anyways, moving on. We're talking about Josh and Adam here. So for the quarterback matchup, I do give that to Adam. Hurts, I do feel outscores Lawrence. I do hope Lawrence actually has a better game. it's 9:30. It's in a different location, a different time, all of that. And those games are typically not amazing. They're ugly, usually. But I'm hoping for a rebound game from him. But I'm still going to give the edge to Hurts. For one running back, though, I do give that to Josh. Josh, again, will probably be favored in running back the majority of his weeks just because he has McCaffrey. He has Pollard. Let's see. Yep, neither of them have in their flex position. So I'll give the edge to Josh here. For wide receiver, though, I do give that edge to Adam, especially now after that trade. I mean, he's got Chase, he's got Adams, he's got Atwell. All three can put up some points and probably will put up some points. Tight end, I also give to Adam. I probably wouldn't have normally, but unfortunately, Josh, when you started Musgrave, and granted, like if you listen to the hype like I did, I put bets on him for yardage, all that. They talked about what a great game he was going to have against Detroit. You can't predict injuries. He got hurt, was out for the game, only scored 1.1 points. That sucks. I don't think Kmet is going to have a huge game, but he will probably score more than 1.1 points, so I'm going to give the edge of that to Adam. All of that just drills down really to saying that, yeah, unfortunately, Josh, you can't overcome this week. I do believe Adam is going to pull out this victory, and then that goes to show, which I talked about, Adam was going to make the playoffs. Look at this. If he wins this game, he's going to be 2-2. So will Josh. They're both on track to make the playoffs. The next game on our list, Jeremy versus Dez. And look at this. I think all of you know now, Dez joined the league because Jeremy recommended him. And they know each other. I think they've known each other for a while. So what I am hoping for is there's some kind of side bet on this. Something. And it doesn't have to be money. It could just be a little bragging rights. Whatever it is. But I hope there's something between these two on this week's matchup, because I think it's going to be close. It's predicted to be 115 to 118, and honestly, I think it'll probably be pretty close to that. But as we look at the breakdown, quarterback, I think it's a toss-up, honestly. I don't think either team has the advantage between Geno Smith or Stafford, just based on the defenses that they're playing. Running back-wise, though, I do give that edge to Dez. He's got Kamara coming back, which is, one of those, and I guess we'll all see on, the fact that we waited on Kamara. We knew he was going to be suspended for a few weeks. We didn't draft him probably as early as we would have because of that, if that turns out to be just a gold mine for Dez. But I give him the edge for running back. Wide receiver, I say that's a toss-up just between the names that are out there, even though I thought it was pretty close. I mean, with Dez having Jefferson, that typically probably would almost always give him the edge, and that was how I kind of had it rated at the beginning. But then between, who Jeremy actually has, and then Waddle being back in and that offense being explosive, even though I know they're playing Buffalo, so it may not be as explosive this week, I pretty much said that was a toss-up. I did say tight end was going to favor Jeremy, pretty close. But again, I'm kind of down on Jacksonville this week, and probably every week based on what we've seen from them. I do think Andrews would outscore. But with all that being said, you'd think I was leaning towards Jeremy, but I'm not, actually. I'm actually leaning towards Dez this week. I think he's going to have the edge, and we don't ever talk about these two positions, but kicker and defense. I do think, he's got Tucker. He's got Dallas, which I'm actually now looking at this, going back to see when he drafted them, because, Tucker was probably their, number one ranked kicker. Did he actually reach for him really that early? I don't remember anybody reaching super early. I remember the sleeper app, going, a couple of times when we took kickers, but I don't know, maybe that was for Dez when he took him. But then also had Dallas's defense, which, by far, especially by season's end, will be one of the best defenses out there. But between Tucker, between Dallas's defense, and the fact that he has the running back edge, I'm giving this victory this week to Dez, who then will be 2-2. And we'll drop Jeremy down to 1-3. The next one, Ian versus Sean. And like I said, kind of in the intro, I don't think Ian lets up this week. I don't. Look at the breakdown. Herbert is definitely going to outscore Fields. I may have to just talk now that Fields could be benched. Fields could be, I don't think it's going that drastic, but I don't see Herbert, a scenario where he doesn't outscore Fields this week. Running back wise, I say it's kind of a toss-up, even though Gibbs only had 9.1 points. If you kind of look at the names between Gibbs, Stevenson, Robinson, Madison, none of them really jump off like crazy. I mean, Sean does have Cook against Miami, possibility of having a decent week, but I'm still going to say that's a toss-up. I'm also saying for wide receiver, that's a toss-up as well. The fact that, St. Brown already played, had a pretty good week. He's got Diggs, but you're playing against Hill. Pittman's even having a good year so far. He's got Kirk. I do believe that's going to be a toss-up for running back. And then I also give Ian the edge for tight end, who's got Hawkinson right now, who is listed as the number one tight end on the season. I know because I watch that all the time because I have Laporta, who's I believe was number 2 going into this week, number 2, number 3, somewhere around there, and trying to see what the difference was between him and the number 1 position, who was Hawkinson on there. So with all that being said, I'm going to give the win this week again to Ian. Ian, you go to 4-0. You're dominating this league. One heck of a job starting out so far. And that loss then would put Sean at 2-2. Back down to earth. Back where he should be. He's still, we'd have to see once the week goes through on what, if he's still in the playoff portion, probably would be based on points because he has had a couple of good weeks, but would put Sean then at 2-2. Next on our list then would be Clint versus Jay. And as you can kind of see on here, it looks very close based on the breakdown. I'm going to give the edge of quarterback to neither of them. I think it is a toss-up. You've got Allen, you got Lamar. They'll both probably score pretty close to each other. Running back, same thing. I actually think it's going to be a toss-up for running back as well, between who we can kind of see that we have listed on here. Let's see, flex positions, same thing. Yeah, they're all projected to be really close to each other. Wide receivers, same thing. I think it's a toss-up. I mean, heck, it's almost identical for most of the positions that are on here. So, who's going to win, right? Because that almost says they're going to score identical. It's going to be a really close. And I actually think this will be one of the closest matchups of the week. We're going to break it down again, down to kicker and defense. And I'm giving that edge to Clint. I actually think that his defense playing against Houston will be the difference on there. Will probably outscore the Tampa Bay defense by at least enough points. Maybe not 10 or 20, but maybe 5 or 6. That will definitely help the cause. And I do think that his kicker, outscores Carlson and gives him enough points. Let's just say between those two positions, he ends up with an 8 or 9 point advantage over Jay. That's probably going to be the difference, and that's what I feel is going to push Clint to the win for this week. And Clint needs this win because, again, I said he was going to have a slow start. He was going to make the playoffs, and 1-3 would put him in a really tough spot to make the playoffs, but being 2-2 after he gets this win will definitely put him in a good spot, but unfortunately that does drop Jay to 1-3. And then the best matchup of the week, only because it involves me, is between myself and John, and they're both predicted pretty close to each other. I know it shows 120 to 112, but I do think it'll be closer than that. Quarterback-wise, like we always say every week, John's always going to have the advantage in quarterback because he's got Mahomes. Nothing's going to change this week, no matter how healthy Burrow is or isn't, and so on. We'll give that to John. I'm also giving the running back edge to John as well. I know I've got Barkley, who says he's going to score 17 points, but we see that big old D for doubtful, which probably means he's not going to play. Now, I do have Breida, and I think the plan is right now that I'm going to, wait till Monday night and then, start Breida if Barkley doesn't play, but I don't know. I mean, I definitely can't go Dylan, and I'm glad I didn't go Dylan on that because he did nothing, and I'm glad I changed him out, and I also dropped Green Bay's defense, which I'm glad I did as well, because I don't know what they ended up scoring, but it wasn't great by any means. Let's see, wide receiver, I'm giving that to myself. I mean, again, Brown, Ridley, Allen, I should have the advantage almost every single week on that, and I feel like this week I will have at least enough points to outscore John. And then for tight end,
I know that Laporta only had 9.6 points, but Pitts, I don't know. Has he even scored 9.56 points any single week at all? I mean, we could pull it up right now and look at it. I'm not that concerned. I don't think he outscores Laporta. He'll have maybe 2 or 3 catches, probably not a touchdown. Again, it's an early game. Those games are always skewed and so on. But with all that being said, sorry, John, but I'm giving you the loss. I'm giving myself the win. I know it's already predicted to be that way, and I think it will hold. I get the win, move to 3-1. John gets the loss, move to 1-3, and again in a tough spot to overcome, but it's early. We've got a lot of weeks left to go. So that is our breakdown. That's all 6 matchups. Good luck again, like we've already said on here, and I'm sure you already know, but there is an early game on Sunday tomorrow morning, so make sure that your lineups are set really, really early in case you have anybody playing in those first 2 games or anything that would matter, to make sure that you have your lineup set. So good luck, everyone. Look forward to the trash talking and talking throughout the day once again as we go through, between Sunday and then, of course, finalizing it on Monday. So, all right, guys. Talk to you later.
This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name. This is 10%